if you are watching this, this is my Tuesday video for the week of April 20th through April 24th, I think it is. 24th, yeah. I always like to start off this ELA review by going over our ELA Focus Wall for the week. And all right, so let's just get straight into it. Our central question for the week is, how can we protect the earth? So I want you guys to think about this question as you're reading the three stories this week. So think about, as we're reading the story, are there any characters that are doing stuff to protect the earth? Are we learning about anything to do with like things that we could do ourselves to protect the earth? So we're going to be talking about all the different ways of protecting the earth, which is really cool because this week is Earth Day. We have Earth Day, I think, on the 22nd. Let me check. It is on the Tuesday, I think is the 22nd. Yeah, so Earth Day is celebrated on April 22nd. So this is the perfect central question for this, okay? The next thing we're going to talk about, just briefly going over the stuff, and then we're going to get into a little deeper when we start reading the stories. But our genre for the week is fiction. Fiction is a made-up story that includes characters, settings, and situations that could really happen in real life. So we're talking about fiction stories this week. Good readers predict. So this is where a lot of times in class I might have asked you guys to make a prediction, so a guess of what you think is going to happen next. The reason why we do that is because good readers predict what will happen next while they read. So it's kind of like I think of it as like a fun game that I play with myself and saying, like, what do I think is going to happen? And then at the end, when I get to the story, if I was right, I get excited. I don't win anything, but it's kind of fun to just, keep yourself on your toes and making sure that you're understanding the story and making educated guesses, making good predictions to see if you know what's going to happen next in the story. Let's see. We are working with problem and solution this week. We are talking about that every good story that we read always has a problem and a solution. Because remember, a story would be kind of boring if we didn't talk about there being a big problem and how maybe a character can help solve that problem. So I can tell what the problem is in the story and how it was fixed. So when something is fixed in the story, that is what we call the solution. Okay, so we're talking about problem and solution this week. What else is going on? Our vocabulary strategy, and I'm using my pencil page to kind of go through all of the ELA Focus Wall. So I'm currently on our vocabulary strategy. Our vocabulary strategy this week is homophones. I like homophones. Homophones are words that sound the same but have different meanings and different spellings. So we're going to get into tons of different types of homophones this week. So it's always where the word sounds the same. So you're going to hear two different words, but they're going to have full-on different meanings. And a lot of times they're spelled differently too. So we're going to get into homophones this week in just a little bit. Our grammar this week is talking about contractions, and specifically contractions with the pronoun. So the way that I kind of want to go over this is first go over again what a contraction is. A contraction is a shortened form of two words that are put together. So we put them together, and they're usually, whenever you take out a word, whenever you take out letters, usually that letter is replaced with an apostrophe, or what we like to call a hanging comma. So she will, we took out the W and the I, and they replaced that with the comma, and the apostrophe, and this becomes she'll. I am is I'm, and remember the I is capitalized, and do not is don't. So you see that they took out the O and they replaced that with the apostrophe. So remember that it is a contraction. Now we are specifically working with contractions with pronouns. Remember a pronoun, let's see, contractions with a pronoun. Sorry, I actually grabbed the wrong paper. Sorry, contractions with pronouns. So we're going to get into this a little bit deeper, but just a little brief introduction. Those are a group of words that begin with a preposition. So a preposition would be like near. So preposition can be anything that describes like an area. I always kind of think of it as like a bunny and a carrot situation. The bunny is looking for the carrot, and the carrot could be under the table, over the table, near the table, around the table, next to. Those are all prepositions. But I don't know why they're talking about I think this is the wrong paper. So we're just going to hold off onto this. I'm going to get into a little bit deeper of prepositions and pronouns with contractions. I don't know why this is not the right one. Sorry, I'm going to teach this. We're going to forget about this one. I'm just going to teach it. I don't know. I guess the program made the wrong paper. So let's just go ahead and scratch that. But I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to get into that with you guys myself, okay? What else are we talking about this week? Our phonics this week for spelling words are variant vowels. So the ah sound, and we're going to go through the spelling words in just a minute with you guys, but these are the vowels that we're working with. We are looking at spellings with A, A-W, A-U, A-U-G-H, A-I, and O-U-G-H. So in just a second, I'm going to pull out your spelling words to kind of go over how to properly say them and to look at the spelling that makes that sound. We are going to get into the vocabulary in just a second, and then just a little brief review of your high frequency words. Now remember, these are the words that have been on my my word wall. These are good words for you guys to add to your spelling dictionary. So you guys have your spelling dictionary hopefully still in your classwork, but I just realized that the word o'clock is here, and that's perfect because we're starting time this week too. But these are your high frequency words. So we have city, father, mother, o'clock, and it has an apostrophe. Own, questions, read, which is going to be a homophone, right? Or red is. Sorry, red, read. We're going to get into that too. Searching, sure, and though. So these are your words for the week, okay? Why don't we look at your spelling and vocabulary words, and then we're going to get into your Tuesday classwork. Okay, so I'm just pulling it up, making sure I'm sharing the right screen this time. Okay, so this is your pencil page. You guys all have this in front of you, but I was just reviewing. Basically, everything right here is what we're practicing this week from our focus wall. And then right here talks about that spelling, words, the variant vowels that I was talking about. So let's go ahead and check out your spelling words for the week. We have ball, so it has that A, the ah sound. Small, paw, jaw, pause, sauce, tot, chalk, walk, and sought. And remember, all of these spellings right here make that ah sound. So be very careful when you guys are spelling your words, because sought, the ah is spelled with O-U-G-H, okay? Your bonus words for the week are words that you guys should already know how to spell. We have new, fruit, city, own, and read, or read, depending on how you want to say it in the sentence, okay? So that's your spelling words. I already went over your ELA Focus Wall. This week is Unit 5, Week 4. Your story on Wednesday, you guys are going to be reading a story called The Woodcutters Gift. It's a really good story. That is your selection test. It's going to be on The Woodcutters Gift. The genre for that is actually a myth. I pulled out the right one. I guess so. Fiction is right here. Anyways, myth, and we're going to talk about what myth is this week too. The story that you are reading on Thursday is Earth's Resources, which is an expository text. So that's going to be giving you guys facts and information about Earth's resources, which is perfect. And then the story that we are reading, or you guys should have read on Monday, was The Art Project. And the reason why we're talking about genre this week of fiction is because this story, The Art Project, was fiction, okay? Our vocabulary words for the week, I'm going to go through them right here. We have curious, which is wanting to know about things. Distance is a place far away. Earth's resources are useful things that come from the land or water, which is going to help you guys with your science test, by the way. Enormous is very large. It's a synonym for large to say enormous. Gently is a kind or a soft way. Proudly, in a way that shows that one is pleased. Rarely, not often. And supply is the amount of something that you need, okay? Once again, here are your high frequency words. Some additional oral vocabulary words is hesitated, memorable, pollution, reasons, and suggest. Yeah, so that's your pencil page for the week. Let me go and stop this. So the next thing that I'm going to do is, I don't really need this right now, but I do want to just confirm what we are doing today, because this is Mrs. Witcher's Tuesday video. You guys are in the right spot. We are going to go read page 380 together and page all the way to 383. We're going to talk about your comprehension strategies, your comprehension skills, the genre, vocabulary, and then get into the Your Turn practice workbook, okay? So what you're going to need is pretty much your little packet. You could even pull out your schedule so you can mark stuff off as we complete it. You guys don't need to have your books open online because I'm going to just share the screen with you guys. It makes it easier. And all right, let's just get straight into it. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Hopefully I'm doing this right again. Don't want to make any more mistakes. Here we go. I have a couple pages open. All right, so let me make this bigger. Okay, so this week, once again, your essential question. This is stuff that you guys haven't already read. Hopefully you guys read this yesterday on Monday, okay? Our essential question for the week is, how do we protect the earth, okay? I'm gonna zoom in a little bit, okay? Protecting the earth. The earth has many resources such as water, air, and land. These children are protecting the earth from pollution. Here are some other ways that you can protect Earth's resources. So right here, it's telling you how you can protect Earth's resources. So one of the resources was water. So they say save water by turning off your faucet while brushing your teeth. So if we're brushing our teeth for 2 minutes, I don't want the water running for 2 minutes and wasting it. I want to turn that off. You can also keep air supply clean and have your parents turn off the car while they're waiting for someone, right? If you guys are going to the grocery store and maybe you guys are waiting in the car for someone to come out of the grocery store, instead of having your car running for 20 minutes, by turning it off, it just saves on pollution. Okay, so these are really good strategies for helping to protect Earth. Just quickly, once again, go over your vocabulary words. You have curious, distance, earth resources, enormous, gently, proudly, rarely, supply. And then you guys should have read the story that's called The Art Project. The essential question was, how can we protect the earth? And the biggest thing was read to find out about saving Earth's resources. This is like a fun little, a way to like read about some kids that, you know, entered in an art project, and actually a little bit of an Earth Day kind of project, the way that they, you know, used some of the supplies that they had in the classroom, right? The story was fiction. And once again, we know that fiction is a made-up story that includes characters, settings, and situations that could really happen in real life. So this is not a true story, but it's something that could happen. So it's going to have what we call like believable characters, believable settings, and believable events, okay? Let's see. Let me go ahead and skip to where we're at this week, okay? All right, so our comprehension strategy for the week. I'm just going to zoom in so we're working with one section at a time. Our comprehension strategy for the week was to make predictions. Use what you already know and what you read in the story to predict what might happen next. Then you can confirm or revise your prediction. What this means is we would read stories in class, and I would tell you guys, I would mid-stop the story and say, okay, make a prediction of what you think is going to happen next. Now, if your prediction was correct, you would confirm, my prediction was correct because this happened. There were a lot of times that I would stop you guys and say, okay, think about your predictions that you made at the beginning of the story. Do you want to stick with that prediction, or do you want to maybe change it because we've been given new information? So predictions is just a fun way for you guys to stay connected with the story. And it's just a really good way to also check to make sure you're understanding what's happening. If you're able to confirm your prediction, then you are comprehending the story. And same thing with revising it. You could totally make revisions. And we do that in science, and that's totally fine. It makes everything fun. We're not always going to be right, but it's always good to test to see what we know and what we predict is going to happen next. As you guys were reading, I mean, obviously you guys didn't know to make predictions, but maybe for someone that hadn't read the story, they might have made some predictions. So here's a little bit of a text evidence. On page 377, which is the first page in the story, it says, I read that the class has no art supplies. They have no art materials. So if a school has a project to do that they have to make an art project and the school has no supplies, what could they do? So maybe you guys made a prediction of saying, I don't know, my prediction was that they're going to go home and maybe bring supplies in. Maybe you made a prediction that they were just going to use something that they had already at school. So this person said, I predicted that they would ask kids to bring in art materials. That's what I thought. And then they would read, then I read to check my prediction. So that was their prediction, saying that kids are going to bring stuff in. and then here's what they did to check their prediction and to confirm if it was right or not. So right here, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit, it says, Hal said, I'm curious about your idea. I want to learn why you would use old paper. So we can save Earth's resources, replied Pablo. When we use recycled paper, we use natural resources and save trees. So what happened right here was says, I read that the kids thought that they could use recycled materials. This made me revise my prediction. So originally, kind of like my prediction was that they thought kids were going to bring stuff in. But what ended up happening was instead of bringing stuff in, instead of having to go out and buy some stuff, what these kids did was say, let's just use stuff that we have. They used old newspapers. By using old newspapers, they're getting school supplies that they need for this art project. And they're also saving resources by, instead of printing more paper, they're using old paper for a new project by saving Earth's resources. So it's almost like a recycle, reduce, reuse situation. And we know that from science, okay? So what I want you guys to do this week on your Wednesday and Wednesday story, specifically Wednesday, I want you guys to stop yourself as you're reading and just ask yourself, what do you guys think is going to happen? I think you're going to read a story called The Woodcutters Gift. I want you guys to think, by looking at the pictures, of what do you think the story is going to be about? What do you think the characters are going to do? How do you think the story is going to end? It's actually a really fun story. So make up your own prediction questions. And sometimes in the story, to even ask you to make predictions. So that's a good little strategy for you guys this week. Our comprehension skill this week is problem and solution. Problem and solution, we've already talked about this. It's when there's a problem in the story and the characters of some sort need to solve this, right? The story would be extremely boring if there's no problem and solution, okay? The plot, or what the story is mostly about, that's what plot means. The plot is often about the problem in the story. The solution is how the characters solve this problem, and it usually happens by the end of the story, okay? So they kind of already started a little bit of the graphic organizer for us, and it says on page 377 of the art project, I learned what the problem in the story was. On page 378, I learned that Pablo suggested a step to solving this problem, okay? Now, if you did not know when you read the story that the big problem was that they did not have art supplies to help with their art project. So it says the problem is the class does not have art materials to make the art project. Now, in order to have a problem solved, a lot of times the characters are going to go through maybe trying stuff out and seeing what works until they come up with a solution. So they actually give us a little couple steps here, and they only give us one, so maybe you guys at home can figure out the rest of them. In order for them to solve the problem, they need to get art supplies, right? So one of the steps to solving this problem was Pablo suggested using paper from the recycle bin. Okay, that was one thing. What are some other steps that they did to eventually getting to their solution? I'm going to go ahead and pause the video, and I want you guys to think about that, okay? Okay, so hopefully you guys had time. I even kind of went back into the story to make sure I knew what I was talking about. Let's see. I also want to make sure I'm once again sharing the right screen so I don't make any uh-ohs. Let's see. All right. Okay, good. I'm sharing my screen again. Hopefully you guys are seeing it. Okay. So when I went back and I read the story, because I read that Grace, one of the students, said that they could use old strings and these wire hangers. So she also came up with another solution of items that they can use. They also talked about, one of the students said that they could, fold the paper into cranes. And eventually what happened was they created all these cranes with all these old used materials, and then they created a really cool project of all those cranes, right? Those mobile, like something that was hanging, right? So that's how that they solved it. So the problem in the story was they didn't have art materials to make an art project. My friends are offy. And then what they did was they found solutions by figuring out ways of items that they can use for their art supplies. So that is our problem and our solution from the story. The next thing that we are going to review is the genre for the week. And from this literature genre, we're talking about fiction, especially just in this story, okay? Fiction, once again, is a made-up story, right? So we know that the art project is a fiction story. How do you know it's a fictional story? Well, it tells a story about imaginary characters and events. It's not a true story, so they're made up characters and they're made up events, right? Most fictions, which are narratives, they're stories, have to include a problem and a solution, and we just talked about that. It often includes dialogue, and we've talked about dialogue all of 2nd grade, and dialogue is when characters are using words. What do we put around the words that a character is saying? I'll give you a hint. Kind of shows, let's see if I can zoom in for you guys. I'll give you a hint. There's those little things hanging around those words. All right, hopefully you guys thought of it, right? We have quotation marks, right? Quotation marks go before what's being said and at the end of what is being said, right? It's kind of like giving you an idea of what is being said, okay? So right now, they kind of said, if you can think of anything else, they are specifically talking about dialogue. In dialogue, they went back into the story and they proved it by saying, hey, look right here. It says, how can we enter the art contest without art materials? This is something that was asked by Grace. So who is saying this? Grace is saying it. So that is dialogue from Grace, something that people are saying. Ooh, homophones is our vocabulary strategy for the week. Now, a homophone are words that sound the same but have different spellings and different meanings, okay? Now, the example that they gave down here is the whole class was disappointed. The word whole, as used right here, means a group, the entire bundle of people, right? The entire group, whole. There's also a word that's whole as in spelled H-O-L-E, and that's like a hole. Like, for example, a hole in the ground, a hole in your socks, like a little hole. In that case, it means 2 different things. We have whole as in a group or whole as in like a cut out of something, right? That is a homophone. I want to know if you guys can figure out if there's a homophone. Oh, they kind of gave you these right here. They have the homophone C on page 377. This C means to visually look at something. Can you guys think of another C? Not the letter C, a different word, C. Okay, hopefully you thought of C as in the ocean, S-E-A. And then this one right here, one like you won something, like a victory, and then we have the number 1 spelled O-N-E. All right, so that's pretty much the homophones that I'm gonna go over with you guys, at least right now from the story. I do want you guys to pause this video and see if you guys can find another homophone in the story and let me know what it is. Maybe I might even ask that for Doja Point. I might do that. I think I'm gonna go change that right now. Maybe for on my Google Classroom, if you guys go on, maybe on Wednesday, I might ask you guys to give me some homophones from the story, the Woodcutters Gift. I think I'm gonna do that, give you guys some extra points. Anyways, pause my video, go into the story of the art project and see if you guys can find any other homophones, okay? All right, so hopefully you guys were able to do that. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go back, stop sharing. I'm gonna go back to my checklist because remember, I'm starting to be independent, so I'm trying to do stuff by myself. My parents don't have to tell me what to do. On Tuesday, I'm gonna check off that I have done my comprehension strategy. I'm gonna check off that I've done my comprehension skill. I'm gonna check off that I've done my genre, and I'm gonna check off that I've done my vocabulary strategy page. So that's me checking off all my boxes to say, Mrs. Witcher, I did what I needed to do, or you're telling your parents, look, I did what I need to do independently, okay? That's the point of doing these videos with me. I pretty much will do it for you guys. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go over your pages that you completed on Monday. I'm gonna give you guys the answers, okay? Hopefully you guys checked that off. So what I need from you guys right now is to pull out your packets from 15-4, make sure it says 15-4. Grab out a red pen. I'm gonna go and show you guys the answers for those 2 pages you did on Monday, and then we're gonna correct those and we're gonna go over the ones that you guys have to do for today, okay? Let me see. Okay, so hopefully you guys have your packets and a red pen. I'm gonna share my screen to go over your answers with you. Okay, so I'm gonna read these with you guys. You were supposed to use your vocabulary words in a sentence. As you can see, everything's already corrected and read for you on my end, but you need to also correct it yourself. Sam was eager to learn or curious about coal. He traveled quite a distance to the library. There he found an enormous book. It was about Earth's resources. The book was rarely used, so it looked new. Sam did not want to rip the pages, so he turned them gently. He learned that there is a supply of coal underground. Sam proudly reported all that he had learned about coal to his class. All right, so those were your answers. Hopefully you guys had corrected that. Now, before I go over your answers on page 232, if you have not done it, please stop my video and do it now, because if I'm doing the work for you, I'm learning, you're not. So if you did not finish the rest of these workbook pages, please stop the video and complete it and then continue the video, okay? Your next page that you had to complete was talking about our variant vowels and all these different syllables, okay? Remember, we learned that the letters A, AW, AU, AUGH, AL, and OUGH can stand for the vowel sound that you hear in call, dawn, sauce, caught, salt, and thought. They make the ah sound. Read each word, circle the word that has the same vowel sound as the first word, and write the word on the line. Underline the letters that spell the vowel sound, okay? So number one, we have yawn. Which of these words have the same ah sound as yawn? Well, we have bank and fault. So you should have circled fault, and the AU makes that same sound. Cause, you should have circled hawk, and then underline AW, because it makes that ah sound. Hall has the same ah sound in fought, and you should have underlined OUGH. I might zoom in for you guys. Too much. Sorry, sometimes my screen goes a little bit slower. Okay, I'm just gonna leave it there. Okay, see. Number 4, walk. The ah is also as an all, so the tall, so the A should have been underlined. And then taught, the same sound ah is in chalk, and it actually is that L. The L is a silent part of the ah for A, so make sure you've underlined AL. Kind of a tricky one, okay? In a long word, the letters that make up the vowel team stay together in the same syllable. Remember, syllables are when you break up a word by sounds. So a lot of times we do that clapping to break up the syllables, or some of you guys do that chin thing, I think. What did they ask you guys to do was look at the words, and they wanted you to divide the word with a line to separate the syllables, and then to circle the vowel team, okay? So for example, yellow, yellow. You should have actually separated yell and O, and then circled the OW, because that's the vowel sound. Full. You should have put the line between ah and full and circled the AW. Pointer, pointer. So you should have put it between the point and the and then circled the OI, because that actually is the vowel sound for oi that we were looking for. I know this is a different vowel that we're talking about from this week, but that's okay. Caution, and be careful, because caution, it sounds like I'm making a sh, but that's where the TIO comes from. So ca, the lie goes right here for ca, and then shin is the second part, and then you should have circled the AU. Okay? All right, I'm going to stop my share because I don't want to give you all the answers yet. Remember, the next part of yours was the fluency read. I'm not requesting that, but if your parents have, I think that's awesome if you could show them how many words you could read per minute. All right, so I'm gonna go, and on my workbook page, I need to work on page 237 and 238, 239, and 240. That's 4 pages, okay? All right, you should have been reading a story called Let's Ride. The genre for the week is, at least not for the week, but for this story was fiction, so we're gonna talk about fiction in this case. Let's drive to the park, said Mom. Joan said, driving cars can harm the earth. Let's ride our bikes there instead. Mom liked Joanne's plan for protecting the earth. So we actually have someone who's doing a really good job protecting the earth, right? Answer the questions about the text. How do you know that this text is fiction, right? We just talked about fiction has made up characters. You could tell me that. You can also tell me that it's a made up setting, a made up events. I am going to use the word dialogue, because I know that they have a lot of dialogue in this story because of the quotation marks there. So I'm going to say I know it's fiction because they have dialogue where characters are speaking. Maybe you guys want to write that. Let me go ahead and share my screen to help you guys out with spelling, just in case. Remember, it takes a second. Did I go too far? No. Okay. Oh, look, right here. They kind of have the same answer as me. It's a made up. These are just options. You don't have to write this whole thing. Just choose one thing to write in. It has made up characters, made up events. It has a problem and a solution. Problem and solution is a good one. And there's dialogue. So these are good examples for how this story is fiction. The next story says, what is mom's dialogue in the story? So they're asking you, what did mom say? So I'm going to go back into the story. And let's see. Well, mom is right here and it says said mom. So if this was said by mom, then she said this. So I would say, let's drive to the park. Said mom. So I'm going to write just let's drive to the park because that's what she wrote. And if I'm taking her words, I need to include the quotation marks. Let's see if they did the same thing. Let's drive to the park. Perfect. And you could see that they actually included the quotation marks right here. Okay. Next question says, what's the problem? So what's the problem in the story? And they're probably going to ask about the solution. So right now, why don't you reread this part and see if you can figure out the problem in the story. Okay. The problem in the story is driving to the park can harm the earth, right? The car pollutes the air. So that's the problem. So if the problem is that if they drive the car to the park and that harms the earth, what's the solution? How can they stop that air from harming the earth? All right, if you said that they could ride their bikes, I would totally take that. You can also tell me that Joanne and mom ride their bikes to the park. I think I said Joan earlier, and it's Joan, Joanne, one of those. So you could just tell me that they could ride their bikes to the park, and I would give you guys total credit for that. Okay. All right. Look, we already have one page done. All right. The next page is homophones. Oh my gosh, I love homophones. Just a reminder. Let me scroll down without giving the answers right away. Homophones are words that sound the same but have different spellings and different meanings, such as the word whole. See, what was another one that we did? I can't think of one, but I'm sure we're going to get tons of it now. Read each sentence and choose the definition that fits the homophone in bold print. So which of these is a homophone? And then write them on the line, okay? Number 1 says, each day she saw that students threw away sheets and sheets of paper. They have the word through in bold. Remember, bold is when the letters are darker than the rest of the words, okay? Read the sentence. We just did that. Choose the definition that fits the homophone in print. Bold. Okay. Does this through, does that mean went from one side to another or tossed? Well, let's reread it. Each day she saw that students threw away sheets and sheets of paper. Remember, I kind of taught you guys a little bit of strategy of plugging in. Well, let's plug in each of these definitions and see what works. Each day, she saw that students went from one side to another, away sheets and sheets of paper. That doesn't really make sense, but let's try the other one. I'm going to plug in the word tossed. Each day, she saw that students tossed away sheets and sheets of paper. So if you said tossed, you are correct, okay? Let's try plugging it in, see if you guys can do those, okay? The students cheered and went back to their rooms. The word to is this is different from the number 2. I don't know why I put up the number 2, by the way. So what does this to mean? In the direction of or the number after 1? So let's plug them in. I know I gave you the answer. The students cheered and went back in the direction of their rooms. That makes sense. The students cheered and went back to the number after 1, their rooms. That one doesn't make sense. Now, we are plugging it in, and it does work in most cases, but it's always good to double check. I think it's in the direction of, but before I do that, I'm going to ask myself, if I'm using the word to in a sentence, does that mean in the direction? I walked to the kitchen. Well, I did walk in the direction of the kitchen, so that would make sense. So that's me checking my work, and it looks like I'm correct. Go ahead and work on numbers 3 and 4 by yourself. I'm going to give you guys a couple minutes, so pause my video and work on it. All right, so hopefully you pause my video. If not, I'm going to walk you guys through this. The class that recycles the most paper in 1 week will win a prize. What does this week mean? Does that week mean 7 days, or does it mean not strong? Let's see plugging in. And remember, plugging in doesn't always work, but sometimes it does. The class that recycles the most paper in 1 7-day will win a prize. Kind of sounds a little weird, but let's just go with it. The class that recycles the most paper in one not strong will win a prize. In this case, it's kind of hard. The plugging in method doesn't work the best, but let's just think about this. What does this weak mean? I've got weak, that means not strong. Is that how I would spell not strong? Are they even talking about not being strong? No, they're talking about a week, meaning the days of the week, which would be 7 days. So you should have gone with 7 days. And number 4, she made a big wall chart. Made, is it helper or made is created? It should have been created, sorry. All right, look, 2 pages done. I'm gonna go into my paper and I'm gonna check that. I just did page 237 and page 238. Now for the draft model. I don't always give you the answers for this. It's just me walking you guys through it. But here's your draft model, okay? Read the draft model, use the questions that follow that draft to help you add linking words to connect ideas. All right, my family and I went to the park for a picnic. We sat in one area. We were not happy. People had left a lot of trash there. We moved to another area. We were happy, okay? Why does the family move from the first area? I would say that they moved because people had left trash there. So that's what I would write right here. Okay, the second question says, why is the family happy with the second area? I would say that they were happy because there was probably no trash there. It's cleaner. Those are just my ideas. What are some words that you can use to show how ideas are connected? Think about some transition words. What are some transition words that you can use? It says, now revise the draft by adding words that connect ideas and help the readers to understand why things happen. So first, next, then last would be some good transition words. Here's an example. Yeah, you do need to use linking words. So obviously they don't have the answer for you, and I'm not going to give you guys the answer, but I might use first when I'm using that. So my family and I went to the park for a picnic. First, we sat in one area. We were not happy. People had left a lot of trash there. You can use the word second, or maybe you want to use next, right? I might say, so next we moved to another area. We were very happy, okay? You could do that. You can also give me a little bit more details about showing words to show ideas at how they're connected. We were happy. Why were they happy? So maybe I might want to add some connecting ideas and saying, we were happy because that new area was nice and clean and no trash on the floor. So you're adding a little bit more juicier details. So that's your draft model. Make sure you guys do that because I did not give you the answers. The next thing is you are going to be reading a story. Now remember, it's okay to read the story. It kind of gives you an idea of what the story is going to be about with the Woodcutters Gift. I think it's about that one. So let's just kind of go through it. You're going to be reading a story. It says, Hannah used text evidence to answer the prompt. So this is Hannah's writing right here. Add a scene to the Woodcutters Gift where the community needs to decide whether to fix the town's community center or build a new one. So that's the premise of the story. That's what the plot is, what the story is about. So as you're reading it, you need to underline a detail from the Woodcutters Gift and tell where the scene takes place. You need to draw a box around a linking word. A linking word is a word that connects 2 sentences, such as the word and, but, or, so. Underline the text evidence that show why reusing things is a good idea, and then write a contraction Hannah used on the line. A contraction, remember, is when they use that apostrophe to connect 2 words. So be very careful because sometimes you see an apostrophe when it's a possessive noun, usually, but make sure that it's actually connecting 2 words, okay? There's tons in there, but yeah, that's pretty much it for today. I'm gonna stop my share video. Yeah, you guys, 40 minutes, sorry. We pretty much got through everything for Tuesday. I'm checking mine off only after I've completed my work. So I'm gonna wait to check this off until I have to actually go through and I have to complete this last page and my draft model. But other than that, you guys are pretty much good. You're good for ELA. Remember to be joining my Zoom videos if you guys are struggling with anything. Just a quick reminder that today is Tuesday, so I have opened up your science test. Don't take your science test until you guys feel ready. It's open until Friday, so if you want to spend Tuesday and Wednesday studying for your test and take your test on Thursday or Friday, totally do that. I'm going to be uploading a quick little, I guess, paper that shows the answers to your study guide on Tuesday. Or maybe I'll talk about it because I don't want to give you guys the answers. I haven't decided what I'm going to do yet. But I hope you guys are using your workbooks to help you guys answer those questions. You guys totally can use it for the test. Remember, tomorrow, Wednesday, we have our Zoom recess. It's only about 15 to 20 minutes. So if you're late, all right, you're going to have to wait for the next week. So don't forget about that. Other than that, join my Zoom meeting if you guys have any questions. I have no problem going over answers, helping you if you guys are struggling with anything, or if you guys just want to pop on and say hi. Other than that, I hope you guys have a great Tuesday and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.